Hey guys, I'm so glad that you're here. I want to wish you a happy Veterans Day. Man, I am here with my friend Ryan Blackwell. Ryan, thank you. Thank you for being here, man. This is going to be powerful. In fact, you're going to hear a story and some things in this story that are going to resonate so deep with you. Now, Ryan, you're a coach. You're a wrestling coach, you're a wrestler, you're an athlete, you're a business owner, well-trained, you're local, you're a husband to Carly, you're a father to your newborn baby. How's that going?
It's going great. Me and my wife, Carly. Yes, sir. We just introduced Miss Raina Jade Blackwell on June 16th this year. And
she's beautiful.
She's a blessing. I'll tell you what, like just having her makes just like the world go around even better.
December 6, 2019, that was a day I'll never forget. I got a phone call from a friend, Mike, who was panicking because there was a shooting at NAS. There was an active shooter. And he called me, he's like, Pastor Tim, I mean, he's hyperventilating. And I said, Mike, slow down, what's wrong? And he said, there's a shooter on base. My dad is on base, I'm calling him, I can't get a hold of him, and he's freaking out. That's how my morning started. Right. You were on base.
It was.
Your day was crazier than my day. Talk to us about that. Tell us about being on base and all of a sudden there's an active shooter.
To kick things off, I was my job, I was in the International Military Training Office. That just was my duties. I worked hand in hand with a lot of the NATO countries and Saudi Arabia, of course, too.
Yeah.
And my duty for that morning was all the Saudi flight students were going to come in to check in, right? That was just kind of the way Fridays worked. Come in, check in, and carry on, whatever the plan for the day is, plan action for the day.
Yeah.
Well, that morning, they're all calling in, you know what I mean? Like they weren't really showing up, they're just calling in. Something like, I got this going on or this going on, but at the end of the day, not coming in.
Yeah.
Then there's two guys that come in, and they're sitting in my office, it's probably like a 16 by 12, like more of a rectangle shaped office, small.
Right.
They come in, they're in front of my desk, they're checking in with me, and as they're checking in, I see a gentleman walk by, a Saudi student in a green flight suit holding a helmet bag, a green bag, and he just looks in, smiles. I say, good morning. He smiles, and he just keeps walking, right? So that's what I saw that morning. Those two guys leave out of my office, and all of a sudden, one more guy comes in, and then this is probably around like 6:40-ish, 6:43, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as he leaves, there's two other people in my office at this time. There's another sailor that's in front of me, and another one that's positioned to my left, all towards the door at the front of the room. So I'm kind of in the back at the office.
Yeah.
And once that student had left, we heard a gunfire go off. You know what I mean? It's kind of alarming that early in the morning. It's about 6:45, roughly. And you hear it again. And you start hearing the commotion, right? So as that's all unfolding, probably about 25 yards, from me.
Wow. So it was loud.
Oh, it was loud. There's echoes, you know what I mean? And it's an empty building in a sense. There's not a lot of foot traffic yet throughout the day. So that starts going on, and so we all rise up, to our feet, kind of see what's going on. And the sailor that was in front of me looks back, and I was like, oh, those are gunshots. I was like, take cover. And then there's another sailor that was in my office. He was positioned by the door. I told him, secure the door, close the door, turn off the light, take cover.
Right. Yeah.
And the way our door was, it's like a wood pane door. If you imagine that, like the ones where you can half wood down, half glass coming up, and there's a keypad on the other side. So that's the only way you can get in the office if you know the code. So with the door being closed, you just can't open the handle, walk in.
No.
So it doesn't operate like that.
Yeah.
Well, this guy, get the door closed, we're taking cover. The one sailor, he gets behind another desk position to my left, facing the door. The female, she gets behind me under the desk is like L-shaped, so it runs along the wall and it cuts out across to the front of the room. She takes cover on the side of the desk by the wall, tucked under, kind of in a corner. And we tell her, look back and say, call 911, report active shooter. And then I got on my phone, I called my office supervisor, and I said, sir, don't enter the building, active shooter, and he said, get out. That's what he told me. And as soon as he told me to get out, gunfire went off. But it was, rather than hearing it, I felt it, and it hit me in my arm.
Right.
And so that was the first round I took, was in my right arm. I was on the call, made me drop the phone. And I just remember kind of like looking at my hand, like just in disbelief that I'd been shot, but this is fractions of seconds too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like the initial like I just been shot thing went through my head, and then from there it was just I just rotated counterclockwise, and I covered the female who was behind me. It wasn't like I had jumped on top of her. It was probably about the distance me and you are apart here. I turned, I was like a wall. Yeah. And I got hit 5 more times, and then I just remember falling over to my side, and. Yeah, it was. I didn't know it was that many gunshot wounds though. It was only, I thought I felt 2. I definitely felt the arm. Okay. And then I felt that was the first one. Yeah. And then I felt like the back of my leg, like I had a giant hole in the back of my leg. That's all I felt.
Was that calf? Was it thigh?
It was the inside of my thigh. So once I was behind that, so I was in a crouching position. So I was kind of squatting down, and as I got hit, I turned. So what happened was I took one in the arm. When I turned, I took another one off the side of my chest. Right. I took 2 into my back, one on the left and right side of my spine. But since I was crouched, the one that went into my right side of my back, it came out the inside of my thigh. So it hit my pelvis, came out inside of my thigh, and it hit the female in her calf. So it gave her a flesh wound. Wow. And then the one that went into the left side of my back hit my pelvis and came out the left side of my hip. Yeah. And then I had one go into the back of my right leg, and then one into my left foot. So
you protected her. So like your instinct was...
It was just, I just knew this got hit, and then she was there. I just kind of rotated, just da-da-da-da. It happened, like I said, fractions of seconds. And then from that, I just remember falling over. It was just overwhelming, just like force hit my body. And I just kind of fell to my right, and I'm just covering my head. Okay. It's like, don't get hit in the head. No, that's just what's going through. Right. Like, and then I'm starting to think like... I didn't really see the shooter because the door was closed. So then you start drawing up these figments of imagination in your head. Like, okay, what does he look like? What's he got? Because this is ongoing.
Is
this
it just one?
Yeah, is it one, or is this a rifle, or like how long is this going to go on for? How many rounds? And coming to find out with the gun, it was a pistol, right? It was a Glock 45 9mm. So, but he had extended magazines in it. So he had 14 rounds, is what the capacity was. So he put 14 rounds into that office that was 12 by 16, right? So, and we were probably roughly 10 to 12 feet away from the door whenever he had started shooting us. So yeah, that's kind of like, you're going, I don't know all this at the time. Are you going through this? How many, are they coming in now? Whatever, this is what's gonna happen. And then you start thinking like, I don't wanna die. I don't wanna die. Okay, I guess we're gonna find out what happens. Then you start getting a little bit comfortable. In the middle of the most chaotic situation I've ever been in, I found peace, which was really, really hard for me to comprehend too, because it was so much going on, at one time, but then I was at peace at the same time. But then also needed to figure it out. Like what made me snap back in was my phone. It was still on the call. So like when I'm going through all this crazy roller coaster of thoughts and these thought-provoking, emotions and all this stuff like that, my phone starts going, Blackwell, you still there? And it's my call that I had made. So when I got shot in the arm, the phone was still on the call. So my supervisor heard everything. Yeah, he heard everything. And from that moment, it was like being in this wrestling room right now. I kind of snap back into it. It's like I've heard that a lot of times, just not in that scenario, but a lot of times at Blackwell, and most of it's like, it's time to check in, let's go. Yeah. And that's what we did. I picked up the phone, and I just remember taking a quick visual. I explained it, and it sounds like minutes, but it was fractions of seconds again, right? I just remember looking at the female. She mouthed to me. She had a flesh wound on her calf. She'd been hit. I saw the other gentleman that was, now since I'm facing her position to my right, he's screaming, agonizing pain. His legs broke, and he got hit pretty good. And then I look to the door, and I don't see no shooter, and the door's still closed. So I just tell this, I say, sir, we've all been hit. I'm gonna get us out of here. I'll call you back. And I put the phone in my pocket, knowing that I only thought I got hit twice, right? And I didn't know the extent of anything. I didn't even know the extent of my arm yet. I just got up and I ran to the window, because I felt like our only means of escape was outside the window. Yeah. And when I get to the window, I unlocked the top of the window.
Okay.
And there's like an AC unit. It's like a floor one, has a hose, goes into the window.
Right.
And it's like a plastic thing. So I removed the AC, that part that's in the window.
Right.
But since I unlocked it, it slid down.
Yeah.
You know.
Now, you've been shot in your right arm.
My right arm, right? So I did all that with my left arm. So I remember I ran over there with my right arm. I was kind of just hanging, but I didn't. You don't think about that, right? I'm thinking survival, fight or flight. It's time to get off the X. Yeah, this is a bad. This is not where I needed to be at. You know, where I needed to be at was on the other side of that window, and I needed to get the thing open. And it's kind of like where we were at. Yeah. So as I'm working on this window, it drops down. Okay. Well, now there's just a little lip. It's painted shut up on the top. This is an older building. Since then, they've renovated it. So I'm left-handed trying to pull it up, and I go to move my right arm, and it doesn't move. So then that's how I knew, like, okay, this is my right arm. It's like, I can't use it. It's immobilized right now. So I'm using my left arm, again, fractions of seconds. And I just start telling for the other two, and they get up, and they come over, and we all three end up getting the window open. I jump out first, landed in some bushes, probably like a 7-foot jump out of the window. Nothing too crazy, but it's enough to...
You kind of dove, head first, right?
Right, yeah. So as soon as we had it, I just dove out head first, landed in the bushes, and then I got up, and then the other sailor was coming out, and so I was able to assist him down. And then the last sailor was able to exit the building, and as she was exiting the building, she said she thought she heard the shooter coming back in, right?
Oh my goodness.
She took, this is where we had broken up, is like she went one direction, and I had saw 3 guys across the street at a different building, and it was kind of like a little hot bar, kind of gas station minus the service station minus the gas pumps, right?
Right.
And we go in there. Well, I see them over there, so I'm like, I grab the guy that jumped out with me. We're in the bushes. We get up, and I'm like elevating my arm on my head, and it's like, hey man, it's time to go. You know what I mean? It's time to go. Like I see 3 guys, and I'm just yelling. I'm like, active shooter. We've all been shot. I was like, we need help. I'm pulling the guy with me, and we finally get over there to the building. And once we walk into the building, there's glass doors on this lobby. There's windows. You know what I mean? So it's probably not an ideal location to camp out at, but it was something better than where I was at. And we get into the building, and as soon as we walk in, the guy collapsed on the floor to the left. As soon as we get through the door, he falls on the floor, and the workers come rushing to us. I'm like, get him up, get him some towels, pressure his wounds. And I'm like walking around, and I told him, I was like, hey, I need to catch my breath for a minute. You know what I mean? I told everybody, I said, get out of the kitchen, or get out of the lobby, get out of this area, secure the building. I was like, and then we get back into like the kitchen. I'm like, hey, I need to catch my breath. Okay. And I mean, I'm like, well, it just went on. I need to collect myself for a second, and got my phone out, and so I called my wife, and I wanted to tell her I loved her. I thought that was going to be my last time I ever speaking to her, so I wanted to tell her I loved her, and I wanted to tell her to call my family and tell them I loved them. And I told her that what had just happened. She didn't believe me because I had just left the house, and so it's
super early. It's what, 7
and it's
a.m.
What's the odds of you know what I mean, of that even occurring to begin with? So
not here.
Right, you wouldn't think. And so she ended up getting a message once I gave the phone to one of the workers because I was trying to work on my arm and put pressure on it to stop it from bleeding, and then plus get everything else that was going on inside there, trying to get a ride. So I got Carlation on board, believes it good. So I get my phone back, and I'm like, all right, it's time to get out of here. I was like, I got to get a ride. So I call my supervisor back, and I'm like, hey, we need a ride now. I was like, we got out of the building. I was like, I got one with me, and I was like, we're in bad shape, and we need a ride now. I was like, we can't wait. Right. And he did. He's like, I'm on my way. So as we're trying to navigate this building to find the back of the building, I just remember getting really, really lightheaded. Really lightheaded, and my vision went black for a second, and I'm kind of spaced out, and I feel like I'm kind of fading, and I'm losing a lot of blood. That's what's happening.
6 times,
right?
So you're
losing a lot.
Yeah.
And so I just remember seeing the workers, and I was telling them they're telling me to sit down. They're like, sit down, and kick your feet up. So I'm like, sit down, kick my feet up, push blood back, towards my heart, and it helped me balance out a little bit. And I was like, tourniquet, I need a tourniquet. And my vision started to come back once I had my feet up on the chair and elevated them up. And I'm looking at my feet, and I just saw bootlaces. So I'm like, give me something to cut out my bootlaces. I'm gonna tie up a tourniquet on my arm, or at least try to. Yeah. And then I just I felt my belt. Something triggered in my brain, belt, grab your belt. And so I had assistance getting my belt off, and I made a tourniquet on my arm and levered it really tight, and was able to stop the blood, the rapid blood from, like I said, I only thought it was twice, so I thought it was my leg and my arm, and the arm was the quick fix for the moment, and I had to get going.
But you got 4 other areas where you've been hit.
Outside of those, right?
Yeah.
So like as I'm like, once I get the tourniquet on my arm, like I get this sense of like adrenaline again, and I'm like, okay, it's time to move. And so I'm back on the phone. I'm like, we're coming out now. Where are you at? I'm like, you can't go down this road. You got to come on the back side. We'll be here on the corner.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. He's out there waiting for us. We come out, and we put the one sailor in the back seat of the car. I go around to the front seat, and off we go. We're getting up to go to the hospital, and he calls 911.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And then they say the ambulance is at the front gate. And so we're like, all right, perfect. So as we're going through the base, you know what I mean? He's going there. We get to the front gate. There's no ambulance at the front gate. There's some squad cars and cruisers, but there's no ambulance at the front gate. And the front gate's bottlenecked up. It's pushed all the way back. Ambulance can't get through the traffic. And, there's a lot of other just hurdles in the road, right? That it's just like preventing some of this stuff from happening. So we get to the front gate, and I remember hopping out of the truck, and I'm walking around the truck, and I'm just telling the police officers, like, hey, we need a ride. Like, I need to get to a hospital now. Like, when we got there, we took the other sailor, we put him in the back of the truck. The police, the Scambia came over. Yeah. They started helping him out and did the best they could do with the resources that they had. And they had their hands full with others as well.
Oh, sure.
And I'm walking around, and I was just like, hey, we got to go. We got to go. Like, I'm bleeding out. 911 still on the speakerphone in the truck. I'm telling her, we got to go. And there was one of the police officers, Deputy Green. He came up with this Scambia, and he said, you're not dying on my watch, get in my car. And so I got in the back of his cruiser, and once I got in the back of the cruiser, I opened up the door, and there was another police officer sitting back there.
Okay.
And he had took a round in the leg, and it was bleeding, and there was a need, like he needed that wound treated as much as I needed my wounds treated, right? That's what there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And so as we get into the back of the car, I'm kind of crawling in, and I see that. I just go put my elbow right in his leg and stop the blood from his leg. And I'm like, hey, man, you got to pull my belt, because I have my arm elevated around the back of my neck. And like, hey, you got to pull this belt, because I'm letting go of my hand to use this and do this. And so that's kind of what we did. As soon as we got in the car, I helped him, he helped me. And we started cruising down. And then as we're on the way, I asked the deputy SA, can I call my wife? You know what I mean? I want to call her and tell her, like, I'm on my way to the hospital. So I tried calling her, and she didn't answer. And
my goodness.
Yeah, it was. She was on the phone with my mother. You know what I mean? Telling them. So she did exactly like what I would hope that was going to happen. Like, call the family, tell everybody I love them. You know what I mean? I'm going to keep working.
So you just talked to her.
I just talked to her.
You just had time to talk to your wife.
Quick, and then get the word out. But no, like I'm going to fight. And I'm working. You know what I mean? And
it's the heart of a warrior.
It's you know what I mean? Trying to make something out of nothing. With a 0.1% chance that you have it, it's making it work, right?
Yeah.
So we're in the cruiser, and we're rolling, and she doesn't answer, so I end up pulling my phone out, and I call my dad. And I remember as I called him, I was pulling right into Baptist. So it was around 7:13 is what logged that phone call time. Okay. And once we rolled into Baptist, I just remember getting out, walking into the hospital, and they're telling me, you gotta lay on the bed, and I was just like, I can't, and I got a hole in the back of my leg, for some reason, you got a lot of adrenaline rolling, know, so I walked in, and
so let me ask this, do you know at that point, so you walk into Baptist, do you know at that point how many times you've been shot?
I don't.
Or no?
I don't. All I know is, as we were getting ready to pull into Baptist, I know that the threat is eliminated, because we're on our way, and he gets the radio that says we got him. Okay. And then that's when I said, I just had a feeling. I said, was it a Saudi flight student? And they said, yes. And I said, it's that guy that walked. I said, I know who it is. It's the guy that walked by that morning and smiled in the office, you know?
He smiled,
So that was kind of like really crazy to process as well. You know what I mean? And, but once we get into the hospital, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I feel like I got 2 wounds, you know, they put me on a table. Start cutting off all my clothes, and I'm being very like community. I'm talking. I'm telling them what they need to know. As far as I'm allergic to this, you know what I mean, or I need whatever. Call her. They call this, whatever. Like I'm able to help the best I can, in a sense. And then it gets good where they start rolling it around, and I'm thinking too, right? Then I got one here, I got one here, I got one here. Then the got one here started more and more and more like an echo. And then
Right.
like, oh, we gotta get you into a scan right now, and we gotta see how this stuff went through your body, the rounds went through your body.
Right.
And so that's exactly what they did. They put me in, I think it's like a CT machine, rolled me in there and scanned my body. And
what's going through your mind at this time? I mean, the whole thing's happened so fast. It's been chaotic. You make it to the hospital, and then you're hearing all this.
Yeah.
Are you thinking I'm gonna make it at this point, or are you?
What I felt,
Yeah.
like I was motivated by the checkpoints, along the way,
Right.
like getting out of the building,
Yep.
getting to the other building, getting in the car, getting to the front gate, getting in the cruiser, getting to the hospital, right? So like that helped keep me motivated in a
Right.
sense, right? Then fight or flight, then wanting to see my family again, and then
Yes.
also knowing like there's other lives that are depending on me, and then I'm depending on them, because it wasn't just
Right.
like Ryan Blackwell did everything. Like there
Right.
was multiple things that had to fall into place to help me, to help them, to help more. So it was just a collective effort. And that's like really powerful in itself, just to see how everybody was able to kind of come together and like answer the call.
Yes.
And have the mentality of not leaving anybody behind.
Right.
And that's really, I think what resonates as far as like that feeling that I had to embody for the 27 minutes, because that's the duration of the time it took. Because I made that call and it was 6:46 when I logged that phone call, the initial one, and then that last one to my father at 7:13. So for 27 minutes, I had a few bumps in the road as far as just you had to navigate the route, but you know what I mean. What they say, a smooth sea doesn't make for a skilled sailor, and
not at all.
That's just kind of the the mindset to have, right?
That's it.
And I'm very thankful, especially getting back to like when I got in the hospital after they did this CT scan and stuff. They rolled me back into the ICU, and I'm sitting in there, and I was like, well, I'm gonna make some phone calls, right? And I call the Golf Breeze Wrestling, because I was assistant coach there. So that's kind of how we how the shooting and the wrestling and all this stuff kind of just connects together. There was a lot of support from the wrestling club and the high school in general, and just the wrestling community here in Northwest Florida. And nationwide, to be honest with you, from like where I competed at my college program at UNC Pembroke to like coaches that are now, or teammates that are now coaches at different universities or high school programs, right? So across the board, there was a lot of support there, and I felt the need to want to reach out, and also I was supposed to meet him at 12 o'clock. At Tiger Point Walmart. So I was like, don't wait for me. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be a little bit late. You guys got weigh-ins, and I know how I was as a wrestler. Like if I had to wait for somebody before weigh-ins, like I was already hangry. You know what I mean? So there's and that and
boys
stuff,
be going in Walmart and get something to eat.
They would, nobody to make weight. But it's like little stuff like that also helped me kind of take my mind off of what just occurred too. And then you're just kind of like amazed that you just got out of that situation. Like I said, 99.9% chance that something's going to go this way, so you got 0.1% to make it go other, right? And just took it and ran on it. But that little bit of hope fueled that 0.1%, then it made it a 0.2%. Then it made it 20%. You know what I mean? Then it made 50%. Now it's neck and neck. Like what's the next decision you make is going to dictate a different outcome, or you know what I mean? So as I make these calls and all this stuff, I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and my wife comes in there and she sees me and everything, and all of a sudden the doctor and a preacher comes in, the command chaplain at the time comes into my hospital room in ICU, and he's like, hey Ryan, we got news for you. And that's usually like just the image of the doctor and the chaplain coming in is enough to give you goosebumps, you know what I mean? Especially after something like that. So I was like, all right, let me hear it. And they're like, you're gonna, we have to have emergency surgery now. The bullets had ricocheted through your body. Your intestines have been hit, and they're leaking in your body, and we got to get in there now. And so we sitting there, and they're like, we're probably gonna have to have a colostomy bag. And I was like, I wasn't sure and I had no clue. I was like, what's colostomy bag? So I'm learning about what this is, and I'm also getting ready to go into surgery, like right there and there, same time.
My gosh.
And so they're telling me, this could be forever, this could be temporary. You know what I mean? We won't know till we get in there. And so we just said a prayer, and away we went. And I went in there, and I came out, and I ended up having a colostomy bag for 4 months, and I had it reversed later on. I was fortunate enough to be able to have that surgery. But it was still like, that was another moment, because I felt like everything at one point was in my control, except for what was about to happen after that conversation. It was out of my hands.
So what happened to the hope? So you had these checkpoints of hope, and then you hear that, and they're getting ready to go in.
Right.
Emergency surgery.
Yeah.
Do you still have hope?
I did. I had faith, and I put in God for that. And that's what I did, because I knew like everything that I could do in my power, I've already done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Anything that's like, I'm not a surgeon, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to go in here and repair this or that. Like, I'm just there for the ride, you know? And that was kind of like, I think it was a little bit easier to me to accept it, because I had already accepted it when I was in the office, whenever I initially got shot, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of already accepted my fate.
Yeah.
I was just trying to go as far and as long as I could.
Yeah.
You know?
You decided, I'm not going to quit.
Right.
I'm going to give everything I got. Which wrestling, wrestling probably helped a whole lot with that, right?
Yeah, and then like just being a competitor, you know, and just all that, and wrestling at a high level in college definitely sharpened my mental mindset. And like some of the training, you know, you endure throughout the military sharpened my mindset. And then like it was like that day, it all came to play, because there was no next day. There was no restart the game. There was like this moment in time, and this is what needs to be done. And then from that forward, I mean, you just kind of, it's almost like the faith over fear approach, right? Where you find a way to harness whatever you're experiencing, right? And you try to, especially for this, like with my overcoming of it, trying to create something positive out of such a negative situation.
That's the crowded hour.
That's the crowded hour right there. So that, to lead back all the way to that, the crowded hour, like that's the moment where like your life changes, right? And it can be like somebody overcoming cancer, or somebody overcoming like a divorce, for example, you know what I mean? Or any other like a medical, you know, prognosis or anything of that nature. Like that's your crowded hour that you're presented with. And it's like what you do in that moment in time dictates the future and the rest of your life.
That's right.
And that's, I'm very fortunate to be able to react and respond the way that I did.
Right.
And I can only attest that to like just my upbringing, of course. You know, I came from a structured family. My dad, he was a retired Navy chief, and then my mom, you know, she worked hard. She was a paralegal, and my sister, you know, she worked hard, and they're all doing well. You know, that's just kind of like the backing on that, you know, and it goes generation for that. My grandpa, he was in the Navy, you know what I mean? So like my grandma involved with the school system, and just all that, you know, there's a lot of structure that comes from that, you know, and it's just, for me, I was able to tap into that, and then it just compounds. Next thing you know, I mean, we're here today having this conversation.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And, I'm very thankful.
Amazing. That's unbelievable, man. You know, my dad always said, he's my hero, he was in Vietnam. And Dad always said this as a kid growing up, and sometimes as a parent, you know, the days are so long, and then you look back and the years are so short, and you wonder, did I equip them? Did I prepare them? Did it stick? But Dad used to always say, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. Right. And I love in this story, man, I love that grit, man, that you didn't quit. You know, I see, being a Jesus follower, I see God's hand in the whole thing, from the peace that you had. The Bible talks about that God can give us a peace that passes all understanding, you know, to even the people there. And, you know, it's crazy because we had started our Pensacola campus in August 2 years ago. And so when that happened, you know, man, it hit home. Right. And then we heard, hey, this is one of our own, man. This is Golf Bree's assistant wrestling coach. And I didn't know you, but we prayed for you. We prayed for you. And, man, we went out on the steps that Saturday and had a prayer vigil. And as we went out there and prayed, you know, we prayed for you. We prayed for you. And so sometimes we forget to say thank you. For answered prayers, man. And you're sitting here today as an answer to prayer for so many people, our community that prayed, that came together. And it's awesome, man. Thankful for that.
I appreciate it. And I'm thankful for the continued support throughout the community. You know, and it makes having something like well-trained, right?
Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. Because you could have been like, poor me, this happened to me. You know what I'm saying? And your story could have stopped there, but God didn't allow this to happen to you, you know, for you to quit, but rather to propel you, to
Right.
propel you. So you think about David and Goliath. Goliath was so scary, but Goliath was David's promotion.
Right.
And I just think about all the great things that you're doing. My kids wrestle here at Well Trained. They're learning that same discipline that you learned. So talk to me real quick about Well Trained.
I used to tell myself
Yeah.
this when I was competing in college, you know what I mean? Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And that was just the biggest deal. You want to always
That's good.
be ready to answer the
So
call.
good.
So it was,
Stay ready.
now, like with Well Trained, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's kind of really spoke to me in a sense to like, hey, this is for me too. You know what I mean? I need to stay ready. I need to stay sharp. You know what I mean? What if I need to answer that call again? Like, I hope
Right.
not. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe I'm on my vacation now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm just going to chill out. But like,
Right.
who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows what the world holds? But at the end of the day, we have a place for veterans, for the kids, for the community.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's an outlet.
Yeah.
We have a lot of veterans, active duty and former and retired, that come here as a way of healing for themselves, because this was one of the
Yeah.
biggest healing things for me, dealing with just what comes with situations like that. You know what I mean? What impressions that does it leave on you that are not seen?
Right.
Right. And that's where we come into the PTS conversation, post-traumatic
Right.
stress.
Yeah.
So it really, like, having an outlet like this to be able to make such a positive out of a negative and take my mind off of something, right? Being able to apply it to something else. Being able to see
Yeah.
a kid and know, like, okay, they've struggled the first 2-3 weeks grasping this concept, but now they get it.
They get
and then
it.
then you see how it builds on and it's better and better and better. That's an empowering feeling. Like,
Yeah.
you can't buy that. You
No.
know what I mean? That's something that's like intrinsically inside of you, that it's just like you embody, you feel
Yeah.
it, and it's big, and it still doesn't like take away from anything you're experiencing mentally or your sleep being ruptured or any of this stuff, right? It's like, I went through the patterns of no sleep. You know what I mean? For 2
Yeah.
months, I was
Yeah.
scared to go to sleep. My dreams haunted me to the point like I wouldn't go to sleep because
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out, you know, like my door was open when the guy walked by. What happens in that scenario if he turns around and my door's not closed? What happens in this scenario? You know, you play the
Yeah.
21 questions
Right.
and it wasn't working for me. But I applied it in the sense of make a website. So I made a website, welltrainedelite.com. That was the
Yeah.
website I made. And the acronym ELITE, every life individually trained enhances. And I speak that's what speaks volume on just well trained in general, the mission
Yeah.
behind the brand, because that's where the differences are made. You know what I mean? It's
Yes,
that
right.
it's that individual
It's
training
good.
you get throughout life, and it's not just like with wrestling or with your faith. You know what I mean? Or with like your career choice, right? Like all of that compounds onto each other, and
Right.
it creates the best version of you.
Right.
And that's like at the end of the day, that's what we're all hoping to pull out. You
Yeah.
know, we want to have the best version of ourselves and be
It's
able
good.
to
So
continue
good.
to give back.
Ryan, one of the things that's near and dear to my heart is you look at veterans that struggle, right? You look at veterans that are hurting, you look at the ones that are homeless, and my heart goes out to them. How do we get them help? You're involved in a lot of great resources and you have connections. What would you say to the veteran that's watching today that's struggling? They're in that place, they're stuck, and they need to get out. What would you
Right.
say?
I would say make the call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of flashes
Yeah.
back into the initial call I made in that office. I made
Right.
the call, and it saved
Yeah.
my life. And it's the same for
Decision.
veterans.
You made that decision.
You gotta make
Yeah.
the decision. You know, and that call that I made to my supervisor had him en route to come rescue us and all that. And
Right.
It's the
Yeah.
same deal with this. You know, if a vet, you're struggling and you feel that it's hopeless or that the only way is out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Then make the call. There's
Yeah.
a lot of resources available. You're never alone. We don't leave nobody behind.
Right.
We have a lot of resources available here in the local
Yeah.
community. There's an equine therapy ranch right over Garcon Point Bridge, which
Love that.
it's free to not just veterans, but to
Okay.
anybody really in the community. They do community events. It's called
Wow.
Project Warhorse.
Yes,
And
I've seen that.
It's 30 acres. They free
Yes.
roam there.
Okay.
That's a great place to clear your mind, you know, especially
Yeah.
if you're struggling with anything that's mental and even the
Yeah.
physical stuff with physical, and you feel like maybe you're just not the same person you used to be. There's
Right.
organizations like A Hero where they do a lot of different adaptive golf outings and fish outings and hunting and all those
Yes.
resources. So again, you know, make the call because there's
Right.
resources out there to give you some type of pleasure and enjoyment or
Yeah.
some type of medical treatment. Like we're working with the Defenders of Freedom who are sending veterans
Okay.
with TBIs,
Yes.
traumatic brain injuries to treatment
Yeah,
facilities.
that's incredible.
So
Yeah.
right, and then that's what's needed though. You know, like the
Yeah.
VA, you could say, hey, why isn't the VA handling all this stuff? And and it's not saying that they aren't, but some guys need it now.
Yeah,
you know what I
absolutely.
mean? They need it now. They don't need it later. They need it now, and that's our goal, is to try to provide those opportunities now to the veterans that are struggling now, that might be listening to this and finding hope in the message and the testimony. And then hunting for healing, that's a big one here.
You're on the board,
so
right?
I'm on the board with it. With Kevin and Lindsay. So we do a lot of stuff, especially that helps with a husband and wife, like healing, in a sense of being able to kind of connect and be in nature. And it's a lot of hunting and fishing and trips of that nature too. So at the end of the day, you're just really enjoying what God put his paintbrush on.
And
I love that. So it's great. But yes, like, make the call. You can always call me directly. You know what I mean? I'll put whoever in contact with the resources, or just like Freedom Alliance, for example, is another good organization, and they actually took me and my father to Wyoming, to Yellowstone on a trip. And that was really good healing after everything we went through. He's a combat veteran, 22 years, retired Navy chief, and especially my situation. So it really helped being able to have that moment to just kind of decompress. And sometimes that's all it's needed, but it starts with making the call. So that's would be my advice. You got to make the call. You know what I mean? You call the Lord, call your friend, call the doctor, call the VA, call somebody, but don't sit there and just take it all.
Don't suffer in silence.
Right. As strong as we all like to think we are, we all have our breaking point, and we don't want to let it get to that point, right? So
that was something with this whole thing that's on my heart, man, because you see veterans that are hurting, maybe even hopeless, but not helpless, man. The truth is, we live in a phenomenal community with extraordinary resources that want to help. So make the call.
Yeah, make the call.
Speaking of making that call and doing something, they just reopened, what was it, building 633?
Correct, yep.
You went back.
I did, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Wasn't really sure what I was going to experience, right? I've done a lot of healing on my own in this last 2 years with the gym, and being able to interact with other veterans. So that's kind of really helped me. But again, didn't know what I was going to expect, but what I did know was I was going in there with my wife and my newborn baby girl. Right? And that's what gave me, I want to say, the comfort in a sense, because I knew I had my family there that day. But I guess the biggest thing, and it wasn't necessarily closure I was looking for, it was kind of the same mindset I had when I was at the hospital. Like, I walked into that hospital and I was walking out of it. I wasn't leaving in a wheelchair. I wasn't using a walker, I was walking out. Now,
so I know this, but for everybody watching, say that one more time, because that you made the decision in that office, but then you made a decision in a hospital.
Right.
Say that one more time.
Yeah.
Just in case I didn't catch that.
I walked in. You know what I mean? I literally walked in the hospital, and I had it in my brain. You know what I mean? In my head, I'm gonna start winning today. You know what I mean? When I leave,
not tomorrow,
it's not
today.
yet. So I'm gonna beat yesterday. That was kind of my montage where I was kind of going through my recovery. And that's what we did. So as I walked, I wanted to walk out of the hospital. I walked out of the hospital, and it took me a little bit longer. I had to stop and sit a couple times, but I walked out.
But you did it.
I did it. And now you
go back
to 633, right? So
the exact room. Still got a
bullet hole in the door. You walk in there, I walked into that building. I know doors I entered that building in. I wanted to take my wife and my daughter to the place where I almost, took my last breath. And I wanted to show them, you know what I mean? And that's where it started. And I went right back there to where this thing could have went south. And then I went back and I brought new life to where they tried to take my life. And that in itself was, like I said, a win. Having Raina every single day I wake up is a win. Just having her, because I know she wouldn't be here if I didn't get through that. That's why I know what my why is, because she's here, today. And I ended up walking out the same doors I walked in that day. So it was just like I did any other day when I went to work. I walked in those offices, you work your hours and you leave out to those doors. I made it a point for us to leave out the same doors that I walked in. So it was another kind of big, just internal moment. There was a lot going on. Everybody had their own way of healing, and they did a beautiful monument upstairs, memorial upstairs, and it was it was really nice. It did a lot. It was really nice. But at the end of the day, what really I think got me through that, because like I said, I didn't know what I was going to experience, was just having my wife with me, my daughter with me.
A lot of emotions.
A lot of emotions, right? But knowing I won. I beat yesterday. You know what I mean? That's what happened. And I walked out. You know what I mean? I walked through the fire, and you know what I mean? but I came out better.
That's it.
And that's like kind of like what it is. As I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you know, that's
I
like,
will fear no evil.
Right.
And that's what people think. People think sometimes that faith, if you have faith, you don't have fear. But it's not the truth. Faith is what empowers us to fight fear, right? Because fear is always here. So I love the fact that you fought back and you won the day, man.
Right.
Love that.
Yeah, no,
it's
it was,
massive.
Very, very, very thankful, very blessed, very fortunate, you know, and my goal, it's a lot to really be able to survivor's guilt too, because that's a real thing amongst PTS, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you deal with that, you know? And my biggest thing is, you know, to provide for my family, you know, first and foremost, and make sure that they're all squared away after everything that they've went through, you know what I mean? And then, like, you know, give back to those that gave to me.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like just the way that it goes. And
that's who you are, man.
I'm thankful, man. I'm super thankful, and I appreciate everything that you guys done and your prayers. And I even asked for prayers myself. You know what I mean? When I was in there, I was able to get a quick little video made right when I got out of surgery. You know, and you really kind of find your true self in a vulnerable time. You know, and then the way you react is not necessarily like the way you react every single day of the week. You know what I mean? But you got to hope you have that Pastor Tim inside you that's got that Spartan helmet on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And he's ready to go to battle.
Yeah.
And that's what I would hope that every human has that in him, right? Or has the ability to make the call well trained. We'll come hook you up. We'll help you out. You know what I mean? So thank you.
Well, buddy, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much, man. I'm privileged to, you know, have you as my kid's coach. I'm privileged to have you as a friend, and you're a hero. You're a hero. And, you know, heroes always say I'm not a hero, but you're a hero. And I love you, man.
No, I appreciate you, sir.
Thanks for sharing your story.
No, thank you.
So good.
Thank you. I appreciate it, and look forward to whatever we can do here in the future together. And
me too.
You know, and see how many lives to impact. And happy Veterans Day.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Veterans Day. What a story. Isn't that powerful? So powerful. Tomorrow, Ryan will be with us in Gulf Breeze. He wanted to be with us here today, but this time of year, so many people are telling his story, giving him a platform to tell it. And so I'm thankful for that story. I'm thankful for our veterans. If you're a veteran, would you stand up? Would you stand up? I want to honor you guys here. Whether you served or you are still serving, I want to say thank you so much. Appreciate your service. Appreciate your sacrifice, your family sacrifice. Is not an easy thing to serve. And so we just wanted to capture this story. We thought, what better than to tell this story? Isn't that crazy? 2 years ago. You remember standing right out there, and man, we prayed for Ryan. And I'm excited to see what God's going to continue to do with this story. Now, we never like to close a gathering without pointing to Jesus, without giving you an opportunity to put your faith and to put your trust in him. So can we take just a moment with heads bowed and eyes closed? You know, God loves you so much. He loves you so much that he gave his one and only son, Jesus. And, you know, you hear a story like that and you think, why do these things have to happen? Like, why do bad things happen? And why do they happen to good people? And why, if God's so good, why do we have these kind of things take place in the world? Well, the answer to that is sin. Sin, when sin came in the world, sin screwed it all up. Messed us all up. So we were sinners by birth and sinners by choice. And sin isn't a cute thing. It's not a funny thing. It's not like laughing at a little baby that's, you know, doing something funny. Sin brings death. That's the result of sin. And God knew that. And so the only way for God to take what was wrong and make it right was for God to pay the price, was for God to die. That's why Jesus died, because the payment of sin is death. So Jesus took our place. Jesus chose to take our place. He paid for our sin by giving his life on that cross. And when he was on the cross, he shed his blood, and that blood is the only thing that can wipe away, that can wash away our sins, because Jesus was perfect and we are not. And so he who knew no sin became sin so that you and I could be made right with God. That's what love will do. A greater love has no man than this, that a man would lay down his life for his friends. And Jesus laid his life down. And if you have never accepted that gift, can I just tell you that God loves you so much that even though you're a sinner and even though you've sinned, that he died for you. He died for you because he loves you. And so if you'll put your faith and trust in him, it's not your good works, it's not going to church, it's not religion, it's none of those things that you could say, well, I did this and I do that. It's what Jesus did, and it is finished. He died once for all, and he paid our debt in full. And if you've never accepted that gift, man, today is your day. Here's how we do it at Momentum. Scripture says that if you'll call on the name of the Lord, you'll be saved. That if you'll confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, if you'll believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. And so I want to lead us in what we call sinner's prayer, where you can call out to God, where you can trust God. I'm going to invite you to pray this prayer with me. And hey, if you're a Christian, go ahead and pray it out loud with me, because we're going to put courage in those who will pray it for the first time. All right? And then at the end of the prayer, I'm going to ask, hey, if you prayed this for the first time, I'm going to ask you to hold your hand up. I'm going to ask you to let us know so we can celebrate. We have a gift, whether you're watching online or whether you're here in our gathering in Pensacola. We have a gift to give you to help you in your new faith journey. All right, so let's pray. We're gonna go right to God. You're not talking to me. You're not praying through me. We're going right to God. Would you say, Jesus, I am a sinner. I need a Savior. I believe that you love me. And I receive that love and all that comes with it. Thank you for loving me, bleeding for me, dying for me, and rising again. I now give you my life. I receive your life. Now teach me how to live. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Would you look up here? Look right up here. Awesome. Man, if you did that, we're so excited for you. This is the greatest thing you could ever do. It's the best day of your life. 1,000,000 years from now, you'll look back and be able to say, I'm so glad I did. So if you did that, would you let us know? Would you raise your hand on the count of 3? We want to clap, and we want to give you a gift. If you're watching online, text us, would you? Would you text Jesus? Would you text Jesus to 866-513-1270? All right? On the count of 3, text us or raise your hand. We want to make sure that you get this gift. On the count of 3, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Would you hold it up high? Hold the hand up high.